I think the quickest and easiest thing to do, just for people who aren't familiar with all of you folks, is why don't we go around the room and everyone just kind of introduce themselves. I'm Nic LaRue from FilmSnobbery, and I'll be doing the interview here. So next, go
I'm
Joe.
Hi, I'm Clint.
sure. I'm I'm Joe Maggio, and I'm the director of Bliss.
Clint.
Hi, I'm Clint Jordan. I'm Clint
Hi,
Jordan, and I am the actor in Bliss.
Hi, Clint.
Hi, I'm Faryl, and I am the actor from, I'm the actors, plural, from Bliss.
Fantastic. So I'm gonna start it off a little quick with a question for Joseph. Joseph or Joe? What do you prefer?
Joe.
Joe.
Joe
All
is
right.
good. Yeah, yeah.
Just a quick one for Joe. So after you know, this is incidental films, and so after 20 years of making, incidental films, do you find it hard to stick to those kind of indie roots that you started out with, or is it something you kind of like grow out of after a period? Was independent film just a phase? No, or do you find that it's just evolves over time?
Well, it's pretty easy to stick to those roots when no one gives you money to make it. Yeah. No, no. You know what? That is a really interesting question because um, I think what the conclusion I've come to, 23 years down the road from the first film, like the first incidental film, I guess you could say, is that it isn't just a question of budget and resources. That isn't what defines an incidental film or an indie film. It is an approach, and it is a sort of a kind of the kinds of stories you want to tell. And it was a hard thing to come to grips with, but I just don't think in the blockbuster way. Like the stories that come to me are not, the Marvel stories. I don't think that way. Not, and this is not to, like, I have kids and I watch all that stuff and I enjoy it thoroughly. I'm not slagging it off, but I just in my own work, I'm I started as and I remain after all these years someone who wants to tell these very slice of life, two people in a room dealing with something kind of stories. Those are the stories that come organically to me. So in that sense, it's easy because it's just what comes naturally. So but the approach that you're talking about, like the incidental film approach, that is something I had to sort of rediscover after trying and maybe, and I did make some bigger budget films and worked in a different kind of in landscape and um but I think this is where my strong suit is. Like I think I'm very good at taking very limited resources and making something really I think kind of great out of, and I do my own sound, for example. I don't like having a big crew. I like it keeping it very small and intimate. I don't like um I'm not I don't feel comforted by the trappings of a large crew or, you know, so yeah. I guess I could say, to answer your question, it's been easy for me to sort of stick to those roots.
Fantastic. No, and that's great. I mean, I've been working with independent filmmakers now for 15 years, and it's still, whenever I think about, like, I could absolutely be making more money covering mainstream film, or let's say any money, um, covering mainstream film and filmmakers and stuff. And those stories don't interest me as much as what independent filmmakers consistently bring to the table with these, very unique characters, unique settings, unique, whatever, and methods and approaches to making them reality. And I think that's an often overlooked thing. We'll see the finished thing on the screen, but very rarely do people get that opportunity to be like, yeah, but if you only knew what went into making that happen and what you saw, that's, it's a miracle every time.
Yeah.
And so yeah, it's
Mhm.
great.
Mhm.
Clint, I've got one for you. Was it difficult to find and rediscover that character over that long of a period of time, having it passed? And bonus question, were there any particular mannerisms or quirks or anything like that from the first film that you did in this series that you wanted to make sure, like, oh, I have to remember that he does this, you know, or something like that?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, the first part was, um, it was it was it was really uh, compelling to me to think about where this character had been for 20 years, because I certainly had aged, and there had been a lot of people coming and going in my life in those 20 years, um, you know, from planet Earth. And I think that we go through these losses, and then I have kids, and you know, get married, and we made Virgil Bliss. We were single. I was living with Virgil. I actually would go home to my apartment and just lay on the floor and go to sleep, and then get up and go back and film Virgil Bliss for the weeks and weeks that we filmed it and even rehearsed it. I didn't even shower. I mean, I was walking on the street in New York, and people would cross the street if they saw me coming. and and so we were so full of passion, and you know, and we wanted to really tell the story and have it. Joe and I loved Cassavetes and these kind of filmmakers, Mike Lee, um, and so we were just driven by that. I had no other person in my life that I didn't even have a plant, you know, that I had to water. I got home, I got up, I came back, and then life changes. I have kids. I live out in Los Angeles, where, you know, and going back to where Virgil left off was uh, really a great challenge, and also to just to to use what, you know, they say oftentimes that all fiction is nonfiction, and to use what had gone on with me to say, what had Virgil been through? What has this guy been through for 20 years, like living with this secret, living a double life, as it were, and also just numbing himself out, not to be able to feel what had happened to him, and and so that was really exciting to me, to be able to in a sense resurrect Virgil, but actually just to step in his shoes at a different point in his life. And it seemed seamless because Joe and I had done a lot of movies together and worked together quite a bit, and and then I met Faryl, and we had worked together, and she was just so brilliant. I told Joe, I said, you've got to meet her. She's amazing. Like, she's incredible. And she
So
was, and
great.
we started to write the story. And so so yeah, and as far as the quirks, the thing that I was most concerned with, I think it drove Joe crazy, was his voice. I I he had a really sing-songy Southern kind of twang in Brooklyn in the original movie, and I really was relating to his sound a lot. And I thought I want him to sound like Virgil, but at a different point in his life now, where before he had this sort of bright, almost optimistic, almost a mice and men Lenny feeling. Now life had ground him down. His voice was it didn't have that lilt. Everything was bent down. Everything, all of his dialogue went down. And so that was something that I would go to Joe all the time. Was that Virgil? Was that, he was like, yes. Like, basically, stop asking me. It's fine. It's good. But that was the one. That was the one thing that I think I tried to really kind of keep, was that. It was the sound. For some reason, it connected me back to Virgil.
Okay, cool. Oh, that's fantastic. And yeah, yeah, you do have to think about the amount of time that's passed and how that person has kind of aged along with it. Also, if they're kind of in hiding to some degree, not having that southern drawl or that lilt on there is probably, you could excuse it as like, well, he purposely did that to hide where he might have been from, or you know, other identifying
Yes.
characteristics. That's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Farrell, got one for you now. So was it difficult for you moving into like an already existing story world? Is it intimidating at all going like, okay, Joe and Clint have played with these characters before and in this world and everything, and now I'm coming in and I have to fit into the world. Now, not as a obviously you're a wonderful actress, so I'm sure that inhabiting the character is easy, but like fitting into like the expectations of like where that world is pointing, where the narrative is going and all that. Did you find that intimidating or difficult at all?
No,
All right, fantastic.
no, I didn't. I was just excited to work with Clint again. I was excited to meet Joe. I was just mostly excited, really. I was so eager to create something with the two of them. And it was just it was pure bliss. No,
Oh boy.
it was really joyful. It was a joyful experience, creating the story and then gearing up to shoot it and shooting it. It was all just so joyful, and I'm excited to now share it with people. I think that our joy will come through.
And as a creator yourself, because you've directed and all that, is it ever difficult for you in front of being in the actor mode to then do you ever get the urge at all to kind of give your notes, so to speak, like, I see what you're trying to do here, Joe, but let me take it from here.
A
Or
little
anything
bit. I
like
mean,
that, even
on
respectfully speaking,
She
sure.
doesn't hold back.
I don't hold back. But on set, no. On set, I think that I was just inside, very internal, and I don't think I was like looking at the monitor, and I don't think I was like, the shot should really be on an 80. Like, I think that I think I let everybody else do their job because I had a job to do. But then now in post, yeah, I'm a total like I mean, of the three, like, we're a team, and I think that we're like, oh, we're gonna need some Foley in here, and oh, we're gonna like, let me take a, I don't know, I get a little bit, I, I get really intense about film and storytelling, and I'm such a perfectionist, and I have such a way that I want to tell stories,
Mhm.
and yeah.
What are I'll digress for like a half a second. Like, what are the kind of stories that you really like to tell, and why does and we can dovetail that into like making Bliss as well. Like, this is obviously something that these are people you wanted to work with, and these are this is obviously characters and stuff that you are attracted to. But what are the kind of stories that you like to tell?
Well, as I just said, actually, before, I am attracted to stories of loneliness and characters that are yearning to connect with people and like desperately yearning to find others like them and like-minded and people that get each other. I'm obsessed with, even in my real life, just finding kindred spirits. That's so important to me, and finding your family.
Hmm.
So all of my stories are about people just searching for others that can see them as they want to be seen. And that includes Bliss, for sure.
That's awesome. No, I agree with that. I think that the idea of found family and storytelling and narratives is always compelling, and and independent film is really exemplifying of that. Like, like I think that every film shoot that I've ever either I've been on personally or that I've interviewed people for, it's always referred to like as our film family or whatever. And regardless of
Mhm.
whatever's happening in their real families or if they don't have real families, like this becomes that for them. I think that that's fantastic. I'm going back to Joe for the next one. Um, so you've had this your first film in this series, Virgil Bliss. You had that as Slamdance before, and now you're coming back again. All this, these years later. What was your first experience at Slamdance like? And have you been to Slamdance like in the interim years?
I was on the jury in 2006.
Okay.
And but I've had no other films there because I was under the impression that it had to be like Slamdance was for your first time filmmakers, which I think it is in the competition, but then they have these other sections. And when I found that out, I called right away. I called the festival and said, "Hey, I've got this film. Would you, is it true that you will program a few, for in like, I think we're in the spotlight section or whatever."
Right.
And it was. So that was very exciting to find that out, because I'd always thought, how cool would it be to come back with the sequel to
Yeah.
Virgil Bliss. And in fact, they are showing Virgil Bliss in the digital and the online portion of
Oh, that's cool.
the festival. But anyway, so, and then the experience, it was just, Clint was saying earlier today, it's probably the best experience that I can remember from any festival. To be fair, it was the first, and it was so exciting. We were young, we were unattached, we were just wild, and we had such a wild, fun time. We met so many people. Everyone we met felt like they were going to be our best friends forever. And every film we saw was the greatest film we'd ever seen. Like, it just heightened.
You had festival goggles on.
Yeah, exactly. Everything was heightened. And but and I have to say, like, I knew so little. I knew nothing about the film festival world. Before we were invited to Slamdance, we were invited to other festivals that they called and said, "Would you premiere at our festival?" Santa Barbara was one, South by Southwest. And I said yes to all of them, because I thought premiere meant just show your movie. And I was like, yes, I'd love to premiere my movie at your festival. And so then when we said yes to Slamdance and it was announced, I got all these really angry, hurt phone calls.
Oh, wow.
From the festival saying, "How dare you? How could you do this? This is, how did you think you were going to get away with this?" And I was like, "What are you talking about? Like, I'm going to show at Slamdance. I'd love to show at your," and they're like, "No, we said we agreed on a premiere." And I was like, I have no idea what that word means. Like, so just to put into context for you, like how little I knew when, at that time. So it was just a heightened, fun, great experience. And I'm really looking forward to going back, and it's changed enormously. I mean, when the year we were there was up at the Treasure Mountain Inn.
Yep.
It was very much its own little thing, and the world was different. It was just wild. Like, we had little Bliss, Virgil Bliss loves you stickers, and everyone was like, "Oh, give me one." And we were like slapping stickers on people. Like, if I did that today, I'd be led away in shackles. Like you just can't, like, the world has changed completely.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to see what it's going to be like in Park City. So
No, I agree with you. Like, my first year at Slamdance in Sundance was, I think, 2011, and I went in there very similarly, like festival goggles on, and it was my first. It wasn't it's far from my first festival, but it was my first really big festival. Like, I'd spoken at South by, but like everyone talks about Park City. It's just, I mean, the industry is about really two or three places, and Park City is another one, and stuff like that. So to be there and to kind of be in that environment with all of those people and all of that creativity just in the air, in that sense of like anything can happen, and like, careers being made or broken, that was also when people were just like, "When are you coming to LA?" And I'm like, "I guess this year. I guess I'm done. I guess I'm moving. I guess that's what's happening." So I completely understand that, and I'm since now back in Massachusetts, but I miss that always on creative kind of energy that LA has, that also like that festival environment kind of has. And actually, that said too, Joe, you do some work with Emerson, which is, that's a Boston college for us, or Boston University for us. Do you still work with them out there are you in LA or are you in New York?
I live in New York, but I teach in Boston.
Oh,
And I drive, I go up once a week, stay a couple days, and then come back to Brooklyn. But when we were shooting Bliss, as you know, they have the Emerson Los Angeles campus right on Sunset, and we had several. I mean, most of our crew, right, guys, it was from
Yeah.
like Emerson,
Right.
either Emerson students
Yeah.
or Emerson grads, and we got
They were
some
amazing.
equipment from Emerson. I mean, like it was really an important
Yeah.
connection
The
for
Emerson
us.
Mafia is strong.
Oh, absolutely.
is.
Are you?
Oh, yeah.
Did you go to Emerson?
And
I
impressive.
didn't. I'm just originally from here, and I have a lot
Okay.
of friends that went there. I went to Emerson recently for a picket, not too long ago. Yeah, Emerson and BU up there.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I that's fantastic. We'll have to grab like coffee or something sometime there when you're in town.
Sure.
But yeah, what are some of the things that you teach? I mean, we might not even have time for a full answer, so I hesitate to ask, but like what is the most important thing that you teach your students that you wish you knew when you got into the business?
Don't write a screenplay and then think you're going to find the resources to make it. Look at the resources that you have, that you're ready, so you're ready to go now, and then write a story for those resources. And be true and be honest. Don't try and tell a Civil War battle story if all you have is $50 in your iPhone. Like it's not going to work. So that's the big ethic that I drive home with my students is be very true, be obvious, don't try and fake things, look at what you have, and then come up with your story and your scenario.
I think that also lends itself to the idea of authenticity, and I think that's what really sells stories to in independent film specifically, but even when you see a lot of these people on things like TikTok and things like that are making that content driven kind of stuff. It's the authenticity that sells the personality more so than a manufactured persona or something like that, more or less. I definitely want to respect everyone's time because I want to give you guys your break between your next thing. But you guys have been wonderful. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Nick.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah. I wish I
great.
had more time with you folks.